Welcome back to the College Championship. This matchup between Maryville University and University of St. Thomas has been highly anticipated, and now with it being 1-1, I think a lot of those expectations have been met. I'm super stoked.
It's been a fun series. Like, we've seen Rengar Ivern twice. What else can you ask for, honestly? That, a quadra kill, a comeback. I feel like UST, that second game, cannot put enough emphasis on how that changes the tides of the series. I mean, you go from staring down in 0-2 if you're UST to going into the postgame like, oh my God, we just robbed the game. Like we just had a highway rivalry, and you can see the smiles on their face, kind of get the monkey off their back. You know, you already won a game now. You can reset, play loose, and on the side of Maryville, they know they dropped one they should have had.
You can see their smiles towards each other, too, and the love to be shared on the stage. I feel like those that are watching in the audience have also been showing a decent amount of love. Hey, everyone in the audience, are you awake? Are you alive? You happy?
We packed it in a little bit here, celebrate these collegiate players. I think they're getting a little bit of an action-packed treat. We always like to make the games bloody for them. You know, these are the entertaining ones.
So I would like to take a little bit of credit for Shogo's performance, because
Okay.
I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but he posted that we're besties now with our photo from our interview. So maybe, you know, sent the friend energy. But
Wow, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I wish I had that status with Shogo.
Smile, my best friend over there. That being said, though, I do love players on both sides. I think that's one of the things that I love most about collegiate is I don't think I ever look at a program and don't see people that I am excited for, whether it's some of those that have been around the scene for a bit. Because even if you're looking over for Maryville, Niles returning, right? But APA, we were watching him in Proving Grounds just last year, and you want to see that transition into a college program and really allow them to thrive.
Yeah, I mean, even the history of the teams, you know, between each other. The Kitzuo and Azog, they played on one of these amateur teams. They built themselves. It was Kitzuo's brand called Frostfire. They go back to 2020. So, you know, throughout like how the amateur circuit works and how teams are thrown together, it's pretty common that if you're a high-level player, like, you know everyone else in the community. And for a lot of these LANs, it's just fun to like see each other again. Just be like, hey, like, what's going on? Whether that's your teammates, other teams. So I feel like that's why we see some of like the friendly rivalry. Like Kitzuo was giving the wave to Azog, right? You know, and as a former teammate, when you win a game, you know, you got to do some justice and play the mental game, right? Get in their head a little bit. Just be like, hey, we just took that game.
Yeah, just a little bit of the mental warfare that happens between the teams, because there has been some warfare on the Rift thus far. We're coming off of a game that looked very Maryville favored, looked like they were going to secure it and try and come up with a 2-0, but UST coming through in the end with that play from Shogo really allowed them to reinvigorate the series.
And I think all the play from Maryville, like to slow down that mid game, to wait till they scaled, they picked their spots really well with their fights. It just boiled down to one big mistake, and that was really the one moment of the game we saw some indecision from Maryville. Do we start the Baron? Do we grind out this Baron? Do we reset and try and, you know, play for Hextech Soul for ourselves? And that one moment, I mean, UST is a good team. They're a team that, out of all the teams here, they are not scared of Maryville. They have beaten them before in a semifinal. I think they showed that there. They capitalized off the one big mistake that Maryville made in that game and turned it into a 0 to a 1 in the win column, which is a big deal for the side of St. Thomas. As we're in a best of 3 now, 1-1 on the board. We're going to have to see what these two teams have learned and what they can take to the Rift here in Game 3.
Sometimes that's what high-level play comes down to, finding that one mistake and punishing it. And can you be in the right mindset to punish it when that opportunity comes? St. Thomas was. Now we're going into game number 3. The thing is, they did still have some difficulties. So do they index into the Rengar again, or do they acknowledge that was kind of a close call?
We're going to have to see. Honestly, I feel like it's a coin flip here. I will say, if it goes into Ivern Rengar again, I feel like MSU and RBM like wants to have a word with UST. Like they're stealing their flair, stealing their style. As MSU, we saw them earlier this week. They were the ones that played it on stage. I know we're also playing it behind the scenes as well, as it was a pick that they liked on this patch. But back to the game 1 strategy here for Maryville. It will not be Kind Jungle. It is Odd Orange, but it is still that first pick Wukong and leaving up that Rengar on red sides. We'll see if UST wants to go that way again.
I wonder what the matchup will be there. Some slight variance in the bans, but mostly the same. Gangplank still not available. Same with the Lucian. St. Thomas is bringing out the Ornn this time around. Niles having piloted the pick during game 1, but always a formidable tank to bring to your team.
And I like this adaptation. And we expect Niles now, most likely going to respond with something like a Camille on the top side. That could be really powerful for him. It's one of his favorite picks into the Ornn, but it does deny some of that scaling that has been so good for the side of Maryville, and does deny Niles historically what has been one of his best champions. As well, Rengar Ivern, it was fun for 2 games, but it looks like Kitzuo is taking a different path as he's actually taking the Lee Sin into Wukong. That's a matchup that a lot of people consider Wukong favorite. Kitzuo still going to stick to one of his best champions, take the comfort, pull the Lee Sin out for himself.
Saw kind jungle on it last game. I like what I saw. All junglers seem to enjoy playing Lee Sin, right? But still, then has that kind of early agency. We'll have to see where he decides to bring that movement on the map. APA going very much in the direction of control with the Syndra here, and accompanied by the Camille for the top lane.
That's a lot of upfront damage. When you think of Camille, Syndra, your single target damage is through the roof. I'm curious to see how UST adapts, as I will say Syndra, it is one of APA's strongest champions. APA, this split between a lot of his amateur play. I know that his Syndra is his most played, and it is 5-1. So it has been very good for APA, but it does open up UST to try and get a little bit beefier, maybe try and get to the later stages, as they're actually going to take that Galio. So this is a lane that can be ran into the Syndra, but also we did see Chookies play it earlier today.
That Galio was paired with Camille, in fact, in that game when Chookies did play that, but not this time around, obviously, being that Camille is over on MU side. Still a pick that could technically go towards mids as well. We don't know for sure where that's going to land.
Marksman bans is what we've seen in this stage of the draft, is both teams really wanting to take the power picks here on the top side, as it's been the theme for all 3 games, even if it's a different flavor this time around from St. Thomas, as Kalista, Caitlyn, each taken off the table. Shogo, also that Lucian, paying that red side tax, have to ban out that Lucian, and sent off the table too. So again, Shogo's champion pool gotten a little bit lower down the totem pole, but he did prove on that Kai'Sa that he can pop off, he can position correctly, play aggressively enough to do damage in those late game team fights, especially when he was funneled. And I assume they're going to take Marksman here to save that Galio flex. So curious to see what Shogo ends up going with one.
And reverting to Marksman in game 2, it felt like he just had more agency, whereas the Vigar in game number 1 eventually lost some of that opportunity to follow up on his own. Still steering a little bit of a different direction. The Xayah now locked in.
I like this because it's a deny as well from Azog, who, that Xayah, you can press R, go invulnerable, dodge out on the Camille, the Syndra, the Wukong combos if you are Shogo, but also it would have been a really powerful pick here on the blue side for Maryville, but will not be the case. Instead, some comfort will be the Zeri, and would not be surprised if we have Leona locked in here as well.
Leona's always a good go-to. We saw plenty of her in the quarterfinals, just haven't quite seen her here in semifinals yet. Reliable engage, Shady, plenty of experience on the pick, just like most supports that are playing at this level. And when you have a lot of the single target damage that you have with the rest of your team, then try and eliminate people as soon as you get them locked down.
The one thing I'm concerned about, if it is Galio mid, multiple tanks into Zeri, stacking up that passive, could be dangerous. And it may not be enough damage for the side of UST. So I'm curious if they end up giving RobbyBob, a late game damage dealer to maybe play into the Syndra. And that's looking like it will be the call. So Corki locked in for RobbyBob. That is a ton of scaling now on the side of UST. So I think Maryville, these fights can be really important that they get their side laners, their solo laners ahead, and they're able to use that to force into UST early. Whereas if RobbyBob is allowed to go late on this Corki, it could be really tough to deal with him in the later stages of the game. That range, that poke, makes fighting around objectives really difficult.
So who are you favoring in terms of draft then? You outline
just put on the spot?
Yeah.
I'm going to take Niles and APA. I think that these are 2 of the best champions they can play in the solo lane. I think Wukong's really strong in this patch. I think it's comfort for the bot lane of Maryville. While both these games have gone later, I feel like Maryville has made the intelligent decisions to really stall games out to get to where their spikes are correct. And I think that this time around, they're going to fix the mistakes from last game and hopefully be a little bit more decisive towards that Baron call, towards the Dragon calls coming out.
They've had a moment to regroup, reflect upon the mistakes made in those very, very later portions of that game, but they ultimately played well throughout. And the series itself is tied. So now, or people like to say, no, it's just a best of 3, right?
Yeah.
Just like the quarterfinal.
Yeah. familiar territory here for Maryville, as I always like Maryville, their jerseys now. They've got like McDonald's and Coca-Cola on the sleeve. It really feels like they're like the all-American team here for Collegiate, whereas UST, again, that upstart, that first-year program, putting together an impressive roster, an impressive run this season, making it the top 4, trying to take down Maryville now as we hit the Rift 4-2.
Let's get it. Maryville back over here on blue side, bringing their lineup over towards the Rift. University of St. Thomas, very different look from anything we have seen thus far. While Kitzuo, I'm sure, was happy to have the chance to rock the Rengar that he loves so much, now going to something more standard in the Lee Sin.
And this is a champion that is a Kitzuo favorite as well. I mean, the fact that he's taking it into that Wukong matchup, I think, speaks to the comfort that Kitzuo does have on the Lee Sin as well. So I'm curious to see if he is able to impact the game. What we have seen primarily in these first couple of games, especially the early game plans from each team, it has been pathing top to bot, trying to affect this bot lane. I will say this game, I feel like bot lane is a little bit less volatile, and I'm curious to see if Kitzuo ends up working towards that top side. Because one way that you can punish Camille in this matchup, Ornn has great gank assist and a lot of early base damage. Could be a way to set Niles behind a little bit and grant the wishes of our desk, which was give Porsche a little bit of help and, you know, have Porsche kind of up his play, step up to the challenge of playing in this top 4 on this big stage, the LCS Studio.
A very young player wanting to make his mark and prove what career could be in his future. Very standard for everyone here. You can see Odd Orange coming around that bot side, starting to get his clear. Lee Sin over towards top. The matchup in mid, familiar for most mids. You have the Corki, RobbyBob, lots of experience on this pick, going into one of APA's strongest picks as well. So I think both of them feeling fairly comfortable.
And the big part about this matchup for Maryville, it's about what they can do with it early. Because Syndra early into Corki, you are a lane bully. That Q on a low cooldown, low mana, you can consistently step up and try and poke out RobbyBob. APA doing that very well right now. The issue gets in the later stages. Once RobbyBob is able to pick up that Hex Drinker, it's really tough to burst this Corki out. And then Corki, of course, being Corki, just scales so hard in these games. So I think I want to see if Maryville tries to set up around mid early, set RobbyBob behind, because if APA is able to set RobbyBob behind, is able to get out on the map and impact these side lanes, again, that is a way that Maryville can try and speed up the pace of this game.
And does have that willingness to play aggressively, as you can see, very aware of that advantage, throwing down the dark spheres and making sure to clear that wave a little bit faster than the Corki and push it up, keep him somewhat locked in. Kitzuo now getting his clears finished off as well, grabbing up that blue buff. But here over in the bot lane, I mean, you have the range of the AD carries, obviously, but just the melee supports wanting to just have that level of protection, a little bit of poke going through, but nothing more.
Both junglers going to take the handshake of Crabs, as it was a mirrored start, with both junglers starting on the red buffs, clearing the blue side, respectively, for each team, as honestly, the quietest start we've had so far. Something that I think that, honestly, I would say for the early game, you got to believe it benefits the side of UST. Because again, RobbyBob is that champion on the Corki that really can break the script of the late game, can give UST that big advantage moving forward.
Right now, RobbyBob is going to go for that back, though. A lot of that chunk down Odd Orange here, keeping his eyes on him, but they're not going to follow up on it in any type of way. For UST, Kitzuo is here on the wraparound, starting to clear out some of that bot side jungle of Odd Oranges, waiting in the bush. Wave pushing under the tower, so they're going for the dive, going forward. Galio getting a little bit stunned up, but they lock on down. First blood. Azog goes away to the wayside. Kitzuo looking to fall momentarily as well. Will do so, because guess what? Were they expecting APA to come on through? I don't think so.
I don't think so, but that was part of this mid lane matchup. The fact that APA pressured RobbyBob, forced him to TP back to the mid lane to catch that wave. APA then base was freed up to answer that dive on the side of UST, and APA, a player known for how he's able to pressure and play the map, comes up huge for Maryville, deciding the TP bot to impact this play early.
And the numbers advantage that UST had is what allowed them to go for this dive. But as soon as that teleport comes in, you know it's going to be more difficult. That upfront damage that Syndra just has right off the top, the burn is good. So they get the trades. Top lane here looking very bloody thus far. And now Niles is worried because Kitzuo is here at full HP. Thought he could take on the Ornn, but a friend was here for the help.
Yeah, Niles was fighting to try and get that wave in, and Kitzuo, he did path top to bot, so that is a time of the game where you would expect the jungler to be on that top side, clearing out the second round of camps. Kitzuo showing up, making a big impact. Niles didn't get that wave in, gets punished, and that's what we were asking for as well. Impacting the Ornn lane early, utilizing some of that early base damage, some of that early gank assist. Really good play by Kitzuo, and that helps Ornn. Ornn does lose this matchup in side lanes, especially as time goes on, but you are still that huge, beefy frontliner that can really help your team start these fights, start these engagements.
1 kill up, even in CS in the top lane. APA with the single kill, as well as up in farm. Now Dragon, the first one acquired for Maryville University because of that previous pressure. So starting to build up in some of these solo laners specifically.
APA has been really good this game. The fact that he TP'd bot and is still up 2 waves of creeps and forced RobbyBob back again as the Syndra into Corki matchup. APA is playing this out very, very well. Really helping ensure that Maryville, again, has that mid lane priority. I'm just curious to see what they do with it. The first move from APA, fantastic, stopping that gank bot, but I want to see if APA is able to get out of lane and impact this map again, because at the moment, UST are holding pretty strong. Porsche's feeling good in this topside matchup, even bot, and I really feel like because of the Corki, time is the friend of UST.
And there is always a little bit of that risk when you are wanting to see that movement from APA, but if you don't get the payoff, then you lose that time in lane. But he's been so expert at it. Now pinging because he doesn't have eyes on RobbyBob, who's really just venturing into River right now. There is some warding from both sides, so MU having that intel because of that scuttle of the movements of UST. They know Kitzuo is in the area, so APA safely by his turret.
And Kitzuo actually not crossing. Does have Drugs in the red up. Instead, might be looking to at least help escort this wave. Is nice. Well played by APA. Really nice Syndra combo there.
Scatter the weak, send him away, throw it down with force of will, saying if you were thinking of a play, then that's not what I'm going to let you have here. And because of that, Kitzuo, he's just going to go back into his jungle right now, farm away. Odd Orange is doing the same thing on the bot side. The supports have officially been unlocked. We saw an early rotation from Shady towards that mid lane, and then now Chookies starting to do some of the same.
I'm actually really curious to see how UST plays around this Rift Herald. We do have Rift Herald spawning in 20 seconds. I think that Maryville is very strong at this point of the game, especially given that Syndra versus Corki matchup. However, if Maryville doesn't execute around Rift Herald early, you do get package up at 10 minutes. And that is what could really change a fight and change it in favor of UST. Using that for the first Rift Herald, I really want to see if Maryville tries to force the issue, tries to utilize these strong solo laners that they have drafted to take Rift Herald before the clock hits the 10-minute mark. I think that's very important for them in this game.
We'll have to see if they end up going for it. You can see the hovers coming around Kitzuo right here by the Rift Herald, but so is Niles just walking into the pit to create that space for Odd Orange. Control here in Pixel, flash on over. Hextech Ultimatum is isolating Kitzuo. Niles right there in the back, but Shogo already pretty strong. Gets a lot of damage laid down. Ornn coming through, not really going to find what it needs, but it's the double kill here for APA. Follow-up is pretty darn good. There's a double kill in response, though, by Shogo. Flashes away. A very safe play from him in the final moment to keep him alive. It's a couple lives traded here. And you can see where the power is coming from, right? Shogo had already had a kill and was really starting to get that farm, a lot more farm than Azog was able to previously. But then APA on the other side, a very similar story. And it all painted a picture in that fight.
And both of those two now sitting at 3-0 on the scoreboard. So much gold going to be on the Syndra as RobbyBob go a little bit aggressive, but can't get onto APA. And honestly, we could see a rinse and repeat of that Rift Herald. Yes, UST did lose out on the play. The one good thing for UST is that they did stall out the timer. They did maybe buy an opportunity for RobbyBob to go get that package, but they've actually started it up first, and I think Niles is catching that wave. He's now actually skipping out on it as Maryville, they want to fight again.
Oh, yeah, he's coming through. Orange is the first one to make contact. APA getting some damage onto Porsche. Knock up from Porsche onto two members of Maryville University, but the stun up here directly into the pit. Orange eliminated, traded out for Porsche here. Flashes away from UST, and RobbyBob completely zoned off by the bot laners. They pick up the kill, 2 for 1.
And while all this is going on, Shogo farming was not a part of this fight, so it's a 2 for 1. Maryville, they're up in gold at the moment, but honestly, Rift Herald did go over to Kitzuo. And I think the fact that you can now use this to knock down plates could be big for UST. So it's really based on how they use that Rift Herald, who wins out on the play, as we do take a second look. I think a big thing, again, APA, the two-man scatter here around the Rift Herald. He is doing so much damage at this point of the game with the double buff, helping ensure that all these fights that UST are opting into, when Maryville, we feel like, is stronger, going to the side of Maryville because of how APA is utilizing the strength of this Syndra early.
It seems that Maryville have identified who they will be relying upon for their damage output in a lot of these skirmishes, giving over all of the resources that way, making sure that he's comfortable, has those buffs for just that additional power to him. UST's response right now is to start up this dragon. It's the second one of the game, the previous first one being taken by MU. So staggering them early is a good sign, so they don't feel that pressure to have to make the rotation towards the dragons in the third and fourth.
And I think we really have to keep our eyes on APA this game, because when you look at the scoreboard, 11 minutes in, it's a small lead for the side of Maryville, but St. Thomas have already taken 2 plates off this bot lane turret. Now Kitzuo is rotating over with this Rift Herald. If they're able to turn this into first brick, snowball things from there, start to take the map away from Maryville. With Shogo being so fed, with this Corki just being an absolute beast in the late game, I think St. Thomas are in really good position to start off this game.
11:30 on the clock, plates still go down. They almost take down the entirety of this turret, even with the player presence of MU towards this spot side. Lots of action to be had mid, though. Because of that, APA was left alone. Doesn't have the protection of the team. Porsche and RobbyBob end up responding. One final rocket does it. The missile lands. APA taken down, but the fight continues over on the bot side. Shady exiting the situation after getting lit up by that ignite. The wave pushing over towards bot, so they do take down that first turret. Lots of action across the entirety of the map. The 1v1 still continuing over towards top side. Hook shot from Niles used to create that distance. And it's getting pretty scrappy, Cubby.
It's scrappy, but I think it's all in favor of UST. A 1.5K gold lead, even on the board in Dragons. APA, the shutdown going over to RobbyBob, gets him back in the game on this Corki. And again, if you are not able to execute plays in this mid-game as Maryville, RobbyBob's Corki will get out of control. It's really important now that Maryville, they have to make a positive play for themselves in one of these side lanes and then try and start playing towards the sides. If they can attack side lanes with Camille, with Syndra, that's their win condition, but it's going to be tough because it's Ornn Corki. Those are hard picks to get on, and UST already ahead at this stage of the game. They are ahead of where they should be.
And with that bot lane turret being down on MU's side, it's harder for them to focus that side lane. You look towards the top side, yes, they have a plate advantage, but again, that Ornn you mentioned being someone that's always going to be standing there against the push. It feels like there's limited opportunity right now to get that pressure that they want on the sides, but are eventually working up towards doing so. All the while, the rest of the team's still unlocked. Shady making his rotations now with APA most of the time, unless he is trying to assist the rest of the team to ensure he doesn't continuously get collapsed upon.
And with this neutral map state and more of the handshake mid, now that RobbyBob's been able to pick up some gold, pick up some levels, the real difference is in this bot lane. Look at the 2 marksmen. Shogo, the person that just went off in the last game, already has a Kraken Slayer, already has access to bonus items, whereas Azog on the Zeri, it's looking like an Immortal Shield Bow, but it's barely even started. So just winning the war of attrition down there, and now UST attacking the other side of the map.
And Niles was really pushed up here. He gets the Hex Tech on to Kitzuo, but it was so close to the tower. Another ultimate used by Porsche right now just to make sure that they secure it. They eliminate Niles, and all the while, some action to be had mid. Orange is here too for APA's assistance. Throws down the Unleashed Power and gets a heavy chunk onto RobbyBob, but there's a little bit of juicy fruit for him to pick up.
Respectful flash from RobbyBob, understanding if he doesn't dodge out on that Q, he probably falls. because Orange cannot chase him down. And it was a nice play from APA. It does get something proactive, a flash out at UST, but still, it is University of St. Thomas coming out on top of this game. All these trades, all these skirmishes, they're the ones dictating the pace early.
Yeah, and Kitzuo's here from one side, and then Chookies on the Galio from the other. Orange locating himself on the opposite side of the Galio that wanted to zone him off. Kitzuo somewhat locked down. That was looking dangerous for a moment with the potential collapse from UST, but Maryville do get out.
Now, for the side of UST, what I want to see out of them, we do have Dragon up in a minute. Unfortunately, it is a Cloud Soul, not the best role for either of these teams, but for the side of RobbyBob on this Corki, you have Corki package that you can sync up with that Dragon time. I want to see RobbyBob and UST wait a few seconds to get that package. It's about 15 seconds delayed right now from when Dragon spawns, and then just utilize package to bully your way to make sure that you keep on stacking up those Dragons, keep the pace of this game slow, and keep on putting yourself in position where RobbyBob and the poke from the Corki gets you health bar advantages.
It's true. We haven't really seen the full effect of the Corki just yet when he's got that, but we got a fight breaking out now. Teleport coming in from both sides. The Solar Flare immediately locked. Chookies knocked up and back and into the grave. Can they follow up? Niles is on the outskirts and Porsche has his number, but Ornn creates some of that space.
Yeah, that kick from Kitzuo pushing APA in the wrong direction as UST trying to force before they get RobbyBob's package is now Niles.
Still going for it onto RobbyBob. They know that he's a big threat right now, so they immediately eliminate them. MU do have some of the security of their turret currently, but Kitzuo is low enough. They get a bit of a shock through the wall. That's the power that Zeri has to offer. They don't finish up the kill. They did take down that mid laner previously, though. No Corki here.
Yeah, I think UST just pushing a little bit too hard. Again, you have package coming up on the Corki. Wait for that. You are fighting without Shogo. He's the one that's really fed on your team. Wait for Shogo to get there. The fact that kick goes sideways, I think the fight afterwards, good punishes from Maryville, but UST just playing their hand a little bit too hard.
Sometimes you have to play in mind, and even when it doesn't go quite right at the start of it, you feel that need to follow through. But in this case, a little bit of an overstep. Still plenty of time to recover. That lead that they have had in gold, a little bit slivered off, but it's still holding on.
Shogo is just shredding this Zeri and Wukong in the mid lane as... I mean, yes, that play, it did not go UST's way. But the back half of the play, RobbyBob has package, should be able to take that top lane outer. Mid outer is about to fall for UST. Second Dragon falls for UST. And even when that play goes sideways, the recovery on the map for UST, they're still the ones coming out on top.
And that package, it's here. A bit different than a few patches ago when the packages would come a little early. So now you really earn the right to be excited for the package when it comes into the fight.
Thank God they made that change. The 8-minute package and the 4-minute respawn.
Perfect timing with the rift arrow.
No, the Corki betas, I must say, they're RobbyBob's favorite, not my own personally. The one positive I will say for the side of Maryville is, again, that package now being on a 5-minute cooldown. There's going to be about a 35-40 second window where Maryville could find a fight where Corki doesn't have that package. And I think these are the windows that Maryville needs to hit. They need to fight when package is down, and they need to try and find plays inside, utilize the strength of APA and Niles, that single target damage, use your solo laners to try and win gold for your team when the objective is down.
And for the first time, Maryville University start to crack into these side lanes that are so important for them to do so, with APA going down to finish off pushing that wave into this bot turret. They have the first one on their scoreboard. All of their outers were already taken down though, so it's harder for them to establish some of the vision, but they did manage to get some of them aggressively into the enemy jungle right now, as it is just an even state for both of them on the map positioning.
And as we take a step back, and not going to have any fights, probably with Dragon being a few minutes away and the Baron as well, it still feels like the change of momentum in this best of 5. The fact that Shogo willed his team to victory in the last game. All of a sudden, UST, they're the ones that have the advantage, and now APA, the Fed member of Maryville, he's caught on the wrong side of the map as RobbyBob, UST, they're chasing him down.
You're pushing for it. Multiple members of UST. A final hit from RobbyBob, and with the biggest point of power for Maryville University not here. The rest of them, they can't push up too much in this mid lane, and UST start to collapse a bit. Again, still a decent amount of time until any of these objectives spawn. Nearly a full minute until the Baron even becomes a consideration. So a chance to get a little bit of a reset and a back for anybody that was still up.
And this is one where Maryville, you know, usually we praise their priority on the side lanes. I feel like they misprioritized a bit. As Azog, he was stuck top. I think you want, while Camille was mid, I think you want Camille in the side lane. Utilize the hook shot to cheat all the terrain that you can. It's so powerful to try and find plays, cheat tempo, to make sure that you have a numbers advantage against the other team on the side. Maryville lose that opportunity when the Camille is stuck mid. So I think Maryville actually, again, getting a little bit nervous, it seems like, in the series. Not having the correct lane allocations, in my opinion. I think that this is really hurting Maryville and opening up windows for UST to punish, which they are hitting.
And it was great to get some of that up. The Solar Flare responded with the Feather Storm here, so defensive use of the ultimate for Shogo. But again, yes, they were able to start cracking through by sending APA towards bot, but that moment where, okay, what do we do now? UST takes that moment to make a decision for MU.
And I love how respectful UST is playing on this map. Again, 90 seconds away from Dragon. Look at how they're exiting base as a team. They're not trying to play too many lanes. They know that it's an Ornn team. You want a 4-1 or 5-stack. They're doing that. They're playing slow. They're letting Maryville show on waves before they show themselves. They do not fall vulnerable to some of the picks that Maryville will be looking for with the Syndra and Leona. UST has really started to play much, much better in this series. I think they're scaling into it. Momentum's on their side. And Maryville have to try and find these plays soon before the Corki, the Ornn get out of control. Because look at RobbyBob, evolved Mirror Mana and Luden's already in his inventory. Those rockets are going to hit so hard at this point in the game.
And UST has bested Maryville in the past, even though there seems to always be an emphasis on Maryville because of their history. This is a team that has brought together such a unique roster that is very capable when it comes to a best of 5. We've seen the adaptations in the draft. Even with the similarities of the first and second game, they were still making those bot lane changes, sending Shogo back onto the marksman.
Oh, Shady.
Which he showed power. RobbyBob flashing outside of the Solar Flare, has the teleport coming in for assistance from the team. These rockets are going to hit really far, though. The missile to finally finish off. Shady no longer here. Ornn into the back line. Teleport coming in from Maryville University, but Shogo, he's over by Krugs. He's here for the fight. He's here to try to get in some of these autos. Even flashes to get a bit of a better positioning. Orange is out of it, but Kitzuo flashing for it as well. Gets a kick onto APA. APA goes into stasis, still alive. Flashes to create distance for himself. Porsche wants to go for the knockup onto Azog, but can't quite find it. Look at that burst fire coming from Azog, though, wanting to get the damage down, but a chunky boy in this Galio, just shields of Duran to keep him tanky. Knock up on Orange as he comes in through it, but the Q hits really nicely when you're looking at the bot lane from MU.
Zeri.
You have to be careful about it, and you don't have RobbyBob here. APA marked down so low. Heroes Enders to come through. Porsche zoned off by Azog. All right, Azog, we see you. He wants to bring his eyes over back towards UST. The rest of the team is backing off, though, so he's going to do the same.
And you can see Maryville, that play, it's a reach, but it's what Maryville needs to do to win this game. They need to force now, and the fact that it goes even, I still think it favors the side of Maryville. I think they're going to get the Dragon while we go into replays. Take a second look. Really good Q flash from Shady as RobbyBob does respond. Shady does go down, but I mean, look at how deep Maryville goes to try and make this work. Orange will ult flash to try and get RobbyBob. Niles going to burn flash and ult to try and get RobbyBob. And they do take him down in the end, but it's on the back half of the play where with all the spells, all the summoners being used early, it's Azog the one that pops off on the Zeri, stacking up this passive as he just goes skirt all around the tanks of UST.
UST right here, I don't know if they were thinking about when you look at Azog and where he's getting, oh, never mind, we got a fight coming through here. Now standing right on top of that special delivery, the stun into the back line. Orange is in it again, goes into stasis himself. The response from Porsche is using the ultimate that really is just his zone. They want to disengage here, but they're actually in continuation. The stun, look at the damage onto Shogo from APA right now. Also, APA just might right now got his ultimate back up, so you gotta be worried about that unleashed power if he decides to throw that on you. UST aware of it. MU first wants to get over towards this Dragon and should be able to collect it for themselves to even out the Dragon score. Teleport coming in the bot lane from UST.
They're gonna give. Wow, Maryville, they know that they're down. Remember, they know that they don't have the summoner spell, the ults they need to fight this, so they give it away. And while it was a valiant effort from APA, that double scatter was pretty nasty, almost turned the fight in Maryville's favor. It's UST using the teleport, getting the reset out from RobbyBob. Smart play from them, and that's 3 Dragons. That's now sole point Cloud Soul, that's one way I guess you can kind of run down Zeri or try and navigate around it. It's not the best role, but again, more power going over to UST. Not what you want to give the late game team at this point, as UST continues to take the steps they need to cement this game in their favor.
Cloud, Soul, and 2.6k gold lead that has been pretty stable for them and slowly mounting when going against MU here. Infinity Edge just finished off for Shogo, who's been so much of their damage in these fights, the biggest member that they've needed to protect. But RobbyBob also a continued threat, so that is a difference here in game number 3. Feels like they do have multiple members they can rely upon to carry.
Yep, the big ones are big. That's all they need. APA, no flash.
And the knock up onto one APA. He's in the bush right now. They weren't able to get vision until the last moment before he stepped out, but enough chunk down, they rotate over towards Baron to try and make this play.
And there's no TP on APA, so UST will have a numbers advantage. They did lose the Ornn, but still, Shogo has so much damage. 3 members reset from Maryville, and the patience, the poke from UST playing their composition out beautifully nets themselves a free Baron.
Maryville, they hear that screech. They already knew it was coming. Baron buff acquired by UST. Niles, the response was, I'm going to push this bot lane. Takes down the tier 2. UST had that Baron so secured though. They send Porsche back to make sure there's no continuation of that push from Niles in the side lane and can go ahead and fan out their own members to protect these waves.
And I mean, what a game from UST. Again, Maryville. This is the elite collegiate program, not only in League of Legends, but in their other title, Overwatch, as well. They have set 6 players pro between those 2 games. And UST, their first year as a program, have already promoted actually 2 players in the current academy system we have, as Array with GGA and Trevor actually in the audience too, playing for CLG AM, subbing in for C9 AM as well this week. UST looking to make a statement to everyone in collegiate that you can build a program that can compete with Maryville at the highest level. As UST doing their due diligence, making sure that no one from Maryville can be around them, as they are grouped up as 4 and poised to win this game. Whether it's on this Baron push or moving forward, it is going to be so hard to shut down this Corki push.
And a lot of the movement, the way that they've been making it from the mid game and beyond is as that continuous unit. They originally had a little bit of spacing to try and get the buff onto these waves, but now targeting over on this top side, they take down the tier 2. APA, yeah, he's gonna keep hitting hard with that Scout of the Week, just throws you back, and some of the squishiest members do have to be wary about his damage output.
Yeah, APA is not done yet. I mean, much like how Shogo was the big player in our last game, APA, he is the saving grace for Maryville in this one. Any hope of somehow sneaking this game out of the hands of UST has to fall in APA, another player that, you know, we feel like is someone that could be considered for the higher level. He's got to step up here, as that's a big 2-man scatter. Again, the movement from APA, trying to dodge out on everything he can, but he's low.
As great as he has been at hitting Corki loves hit
they
missiles.
want this. Really?
Cycloning right there in the back. Deep Kitzuo goes, but the collapse here means that Niles is the first to fall. Ornn sidestepped by APA. Flashes away. Kitzuo still's got his angry eyes going. They're bringing the little bit of the wave that they have remaining. Is just enough to take down this turret and take down this inhibitor.
Beautiful play from UST. Again, UST, they can reset 55 seconds away from Dragon. You have the Baron and Power recalls. You have an inhibitor wave knocked down. And again, desperation from Maryville. Yes, this game is tough and out of reach, but APA, that is your big carry. He was 300 HP when you flash in and go in. Niles too deep. I feel like Maryville getting a little bit nervous, trying to pick their spots, not quite able to find it. That felt like a reach, and UST, they punish.
And you might be a little bit more sweaty on the forehead when you think about game 2, where that's what we started to feel when UST were able to bring it back.
Gonna take a replay as APA, early movement, that was pretty nice from him, as fortunately the fact he was able to dodge out on enough skill shots, it did let him survive, but the fact that MU pushes here, I mean, it is a juicy engage to get the TP out of Porsche, but APA is all your damage. He is the Fed member. He cannot get involved in this fight and has to burn Flash at the end. That could be punished at the Dragon Soul as well. So I feel like Maryville overplaying their hand yet again.
You have to be worried about any kind of reach UST can make to reach APA. Missiles coming through from afar. they really want to make sure they take out the biggest damage threat of MU and have done so effectively right now. Dragon cannot be contested by Maryville. Kitzuo is already on it, so this is Cloud Soul that will be secured for UST. Again, not the greatest soul that they would have loved to roll if it was all in their control, but still a soul at that.
And there's no hope for Maryville on this map. Oh, what? What?
Packaging in RobbyBob's life is not long for the world, but neither is the Leona's. RobbyBob taken out of the fight, still alive though. A lot of poke from Azog onto Shogo here. A little bit of a showdown between the bot laners while the rest of the team fights over on the top side. After using the Hextech ultimatum, Niles eventually falls. The remainder of UST still alive. Azog was just not here. A lot of the fight was split off by MU. Featherstone to go and finish off. Now it is just on Orange. Waves coming through, has the towers here, but do they dive? Do they finish him? They do manage to get the kill. They've got everything they need to finish this game. A quicker end than we have seen before. Shady spawns back up, the last stand from the veteran of MU, but UST pull ahead in this series.
RobbyBob, somehow the blind package works. It finds 3 as UST take the wipe and are now 1 game away from denying Maryville their reappearance in the finals this split, as it's hugs all around for UST. But hey, there's still 1 more game to go. You still gotta take 1 more game out. And that's tough to do against Maryville, the team that has the most experience in this tournament, the team that if anyone is going to have their backs up against the wall, we expect them to be the ones that can stay poised in this series. But man, ever since that Game 2 fight from Shogo, it really feels like the tides of this series have shifted in favor of UST.
It's really easy to forget that this is a semifinal and not a final in the way that they're scrapping it out. I also think one of my favorite things about watching college is you see things like that, like, you going in there? Oh, it worked. All right. Everyone followed through, and you were able to end the game. So UST, it really does feel like they've been energized ever since those final moments of Game 2.
And I mean, the confidence of UST, and I think the start they had as well, setting Niles behind. We asked for that. Shogo, picking up those 3 kills, being that big DPS marksman. I mean, what a series Shogo's been having. It was Game 2, the reason that they put the first win on the scoreboard. Game 3, he was the big carry. And even in Game 1, he was the reason they were in the game on that Vigar. I know, again, for Shogo, this was his opportunity. He really felt like this was his stage to make his mark. He has been fantastic in these first 3 games. I want to see if we can do it again for the rest of the series.
For a player with very heavy aspirations for his career, this is what you want to see from him, proving himself in the semifinals. I mean, UST, they hand Maryville a 2nd loss in such a fashion. And with match point on the horizon, we're going to go ahead and head on over to the analyst desk.
And welcome back to Season 2 of the Shogo Show, where, as you see in Season 1, Maryville was able to find him, but in Season 2, he's so far they can't even watch the episodes. At this point, he wasn't on the same screen as them more often than not, Columner.
We've been hyping him up the entire tournament leading into this matchup. We said that UST's best matchup might be bot side, where Maryville, they're probably the weakest bot side potentially in terms of how they play around them going into it. And Shogo's just been so dominant. Cubby was touching on it. This is probably the best series performance we've seen from any player in this entire tournament.
I mean, fingers crossed we get renewed for a Season 3 at this point for Shogo.
Hopefully.
Because these games have been just so fun. And yeah, I loved the Vagar too. That creativity was nice. But there's just something that hits different about Shogo playing these marksmen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think on the other side, I think APA is doing his utmost to kind of keep Maryville in this game.
He was dragging them towards the end.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, hitting those massive scatter of the weeks, you know, no one's really building MR aside from the Corki and the Ornn aside from the 2 solo laners on UST. And just being able to have the lead, hold it for as long as he can, UST capitalizing on it, Kitzuo and RobbyBob doing a great job trying to punish and get the kills on the Syndra, get the shutdown in order to kind of facilitate the comeback.
And also, speaking of Robbie as well, too, he himself had a fantastic highlight game as well. If you take a look back at how things started as well, we were talking about how, hey, he's on a champion where he gets to play the game.
Yeah, it's not Ivern anymore. You know, I love my tree boy, but
True.
I was hoping and praying that RobbyBob would get to play the game in this series, and he finally has. I can't wait to see the difference between the Ivern damage and the Corki damage, because I'm sure it's going to be fun.
It was such a difference on how UST has played most of their games. We had talked about topside. Shogo did very well early, but Robbie was really the clinching factor. We'll probably bring it up in the replay, but I think that was a blind Corki package into 4 people on Maryville sitting in vision, and he still did not die until the very end, until his team had wiped. That was insane.
Yeah, we got to get to that one again. I cannot wait for that play, because like, who else makes a Corki play like that? Nobody in the entire world other than RobbyBob.
Yeah, and I think as we highlight here, just the shutdown that the first death gives it over to RobbyBob. He's able to start snowballing. We see the mispositioning here from APA. You know, he's not able to protect his lead, but often that's a team effort as well, right? He has this lead. He needs to be able to convert that, especially as a Syndra champion that dominates the early game, into late game prowess and the ability to one-shot.
And while we're giving credit, I said at the end of that game I wanted to see a better performance from Porsche. He did fantastic this game on this Ornn. It takes a lot to be given the Camille, lose that matchup on the side of Ornn against someone like Niles, who is very, it's hard to play against him. It's hard to prep against him.
Here it is.
Here's that Corki package.
Who does this?
I mean, Corki does. You remember, he's a man riding a plane. So he decides to just walk in and say, you know, I'm up to snap. I got me an ace machine.
Back to Porsche, to have gone over those performances and not really perform in those 2 games, and to come back in the losing side of that matchup and still out-impact Niles in this game is massive. Every single cylinder on UST is firing.
And there's that damage difference between the Corki and the Ivern, right?
It's not
that
1K
grab
anymore.
looks really, really different now.
He's completely on the other side of it, too. He went from 10th to 1st immediately.
I believe you called it a human champion as well, so which is not incorrect considering Ivern is a tree. So that does work.
Honestly,
He's a Yordle now.
Corki. Are Yordles human? We gotta.
We're not going to get into politics of this right now.
Whoa.
This is way
Question,
too.
Whoa. Yeah, exactly.
You're asking the deep questions here, bro. I'm not ready for this, bro. It's only like 5 p.m.
I thought that's what the analyst desk was for, analyzing the deep philosophical questions like, are Yordles
Moving
human?
on. I think things from here are only going to get tougher for Maryville. They have selected blue side once again, though.
One thing I am really happy about from Maryville is that they are deciding to not swap out players again.
Yeah.
We know that Maryville likes the fact that they can be very flexible with the players that they run with game to game. I think this is the first time I've ever seen a competitive series where they've kind of shuffled players as often as they have. I've never seen a team do that. And I wonder from a player's perspective, how much of a difference it's going to make having some form of stability in the players that you're playing around. Because I can only imagine from a coaching and from a player's perspective, how difficult that really would be to constantly have so many people going in and out. Okay, well, like stylistically, this AD carry's better playing through carry. So how does this affect the game and so on and so forth?
Yeah, and at what point does it become more confusing for your own team than the opponent's preparation for your roster, right? I think that's the line they're starting to cross a little bit, and they're sort of reeling it back, especially now that they're in a little bit of trouble.
Jensen Go did speak a lot about how he mentions he boasts this overall 10-man roster because, you know, of course, he has a specific plan for the entire team, but the biggest thing is, like you were mentioning, Univer, right? It's to confuse the drafts because every single one of these players is phenomenal on multiple different sets of champions, especially players like APA, so that on its own can become confusing for draft, and I think heading to the next game, draft may be the biggest point of all this.
The biggest thing for me is that Cubby was flaming us for predicting UST to win the series, and now they're 1 game away from doing it.
I got your back, Cubby. I got your back.
Your predictions
That's not the back you want.
All right, we're gonna bring it all back here because back-to-back right now, UST Dubs have brought us the match point. Well, let's see if they can claim their spot. Boys, go ahead, bring it home. Let's go, UST, baby. It's upside down. It's UST, baby. Let's go.
There's a
What's your
Maryville
gun?
jersey somewhere over here.
No, it's not. You don't know anything. Don't do anything. We'll be right back, okay? Go.